roadmap. I caught up with Shilpak, Ambule, India's High Commissioner to Singapore, to know more about the India-Singapore opportunity. Listen in. Let me begin by asking you, how are India and Singapore raising the ambition in ties? We signed a comprehensive strategic partnership, decided to elevate the partnership. What does this really mean for business to business and economic ties?
Thanks, Parikshit. I'll rewind back to September of 2024 when Prime Minister Modi paid a very successful visit to Singapore. And just 1 week before his visit, we had what we call as the India-Singapore Ministerial Roundtable meeting, where there were 4 ministers on our side and 6 ministers on the Singapore side. And they identified 6 areas of collaboration. All these areas, the cooperation within these areas was consolidated during Prime Minister's visit. First area is the whole skilling landscape, where Singapore has a very well-developed skilling infrastructure, and we are trying to see what we can do back home using their advantage in this sector. Second area is the connectivity space, both maritime and air connectivity. Our ports and shipping minister was here, and we signed the letter of intent for building a green and digital shipping corridor between India and Singapore. Third area is the advanced manufacturing space, where we'll go into semiconductors. We signed an agreement during Prime Minister's visit. In fact, both Prime Ministers visited one of the semiconductor units in Singapore, and we are trying to see how more we can develop our semiconductor sector with the help of Singapore. Fourth area is the health, where we have signed an MOU and looking for more areas of collaboration. Fifth is the whole digital infrastructure, where we have a UPI Pay Now link, and we're trying to do more. And sixth is sustainability and green growth, which includes sustainable aviation fuel, waste to energy, and many more other areas.
Right. So it seems to be a very comprehensive partnership going forward. Now, in terms of FDI, both in 2024 and also for the last 25 years or so, Singapore has been the biggest source of FDI for India. In the current fiscal, what do you feel will be some of the areas which would attract the highest FDI from Singapore?
Well, we have most of the Singapore companies invested in India. They're trying to expand and do more. I'll give you 2-3 examples, like Sembcorp, which is very big in renewable energies in India. It is also trying to see if we can develop few industrial parks in India. CapitaLand and Keppel both are looking at developing data centers, business parks and IT parks. We have the PSA, which operates ports, which has one of the biggest terminals in JNPT and is trying to do more. We have Sabrana Jurong, which does consultancy and town planning, and many other companies. Of course, you have investors like GIC and Temasek, which are actively looking to increase their exposure to India and expand India in their portfolio.
Right. Speaking about semiconductors, now this is a very important area for India in terms of self-reliance as well. How much investments do you specifically expect to come from Singapore in the semiconductor area, and how are we looking to increase this cooperation for our advantage?
2 or 3 points here. One, we are trying to see Singapore has a very good semiconductor ecosystem. By that I mean most of the, not the mother fab, but the supply chain participants in the fab are present here, like the gas producers or equipment makers, tool makers, substrate makers. Now they are actively looking at India as a market and wanting to do more. Second is the whole skill space in semiconductors. It's a very advanced skill requirement. So we have many Singaporean institutions which have done that program well, and we are trying to see how we can collaborate with that. And few of the big fab companies world over which are present in Singapore are trying to see if they can also go and invest in India. One, of course, is a good example of Micron, which is present here and in Malaysia and is now doing one plant in Sanad in Gujarat.
Right. In terms of trade, could you give us a sense of what is the total bilateral trade currently, and how would you want to expand the trade partnership?
Well, trade has been growing, was 35 billion last year, and we are actively looking at more areas to expand that trade. Investment and trade goes hand in hand, so once the investment flows grow, naturally trade will also grow.
Right. I would like to ask you about Operation Sindoor. Ambassador, there has been a very strong diplomatic outreach that India has started in order to make people aware about Pakistan-sponsored terrorism, to isolate them on the issue and also tell them why we launched Operation Sindoor. How successful has that mission been, and is this going to be a continuing endeavor?
Singapore was one of the first countries which condemned the terrorist act on 23rd of the terrorist attack happened on 22nd. They issued a statement on 23rd. Both the Prime Minister and Foreign Minister tweeted, and the Foreign Ministry issued a press statement. We had the group of MPs, members of Parliament, come here 2 days ago. They had good meetings at the political level. They had a good interaction with the press as well as think tanks and with the investor community. So a common message which came out was that Singapore stands strongly with India in its fight against terrorism.
Right. Ambassador, we see a lot of geopolitical tensions globally, a lot of trade tensions globally, and that's why bilateral relationships become very, very important. As an old ally that we have in Singapore, which are some of the areas which you feel are probably untapped, which need more focus, and areas where India would like to have more access in Singapore?
Oh, well, this year marks the 60th anniversary of our diplomatic ties. It's also Singapore's 60th birthday. President Thurman paid a very successful state visit to India in January. One thing which we've noticed in the last year or so is many of our states are coming out to attract investment. Chief ministers and different delegations have come to Singapore to pitch for their own state and what incentive packages these states are giving, and which is very good because Singapore is looking at going in different parts of India. Like when President Thurman visited Odisha, we signed 8 agreements with the state government of Odisha. So, I mean, from that point of view, yes, Singapore is looking at the entire country and different states where all they can go and where all they can take advantage of our market.
And finally, sir, when it comes to political alignment, alignment on strategic issues, looking at the tensions in the region, what is the kind of alignment, military, technological, strategic alignment that we are seeking with Singapore?
Singapore, as I said, is our comprehensive strategic partner. Our defense and security relationship is the understated part of the collaboration. It is very active, very good. We have frequent political exchanges in the defense side. We have frequent naval ship visits here, and that is an ongoing part of the relationship. We have the Shangri-La dialogue going on starting today. We have the Chief of Defense Staff from India who has come here to participate. He will be meeting the new Defense Minister of Singapore and his counterpart here. So that part of the relationship is also very, very active.
Finally, on the aviation sector, how do you expect India and Singapore to work together to increase participation of Singapore Airlines in India, having more air routes as well, and maybe have more MRO facilities too?
Three parts to it. The aviation sector. One, of course, the discussions on the air services agreement we are trying to schedule a meeting very soon and see where it goes. Second is this whole MRO space. Both SIA Engineering and ST Engineering, 2 big companies of Singapore, are well known for their MRO activities, and they are actively looking at going into India. SIA Engineering, in fact, along with Air India, has one unit in Bangalore, and they are looking at expanding. And the third area is the sustainable aviation fuel, where Singapore has kind of mandated their airlines to use some part of their fuel from sustainable aviation fuel, and some companies are looking at collaborating with some counterparts in India to have sustainable aviation fuel plants being developed in India.
We also visited